What inspired me, I think on the train journey back from Edinburgh when we went last time 2 years ago, there was just a seed in my head about an idea that what if in this booming population of ours, people had to apply, parents had to apply for children. Could that be a solution to what is quite a huge issue and will be a huge issue in a number of years' time? My name is Nick Huntington and I'm the director, producer and writer for My Sins of Ugly Youth. So parents are applying after they've had various checks, so checks to do with their health, to do with their wealth, their status, even their status on social networking sites, to do with their sexuality, to do with a number of things which are arguably quite controversial today. But I thought that might be an interesting one to get people a little bit fired up. And it kind of grew from there. The story has the potential to be huge. I mean, you're creating an entire world in Ugly Youth. And what I wanted to do was create a play from that seed that really followed one journey. And that was a journey for Arkin, this protagonist, and how he manages to deal with being an illegal child in this world. And everything else kind of fits into his story.
My name is Billy Pinto and I'm playing Arkin in Ugly Youth.
Friday, 20th of December, 2121. In 54 hours, 17 minutes and 14 seconds, I will turn 16. And
his sort of storyline is him because you have to be 16 to be able to be legal. So he's only a few days from being 16, so the play sort of him going through the last few days of having to survive without being able to live freely. And then he meets the Ugly Youth, and there's a relationship there which builds as a big although I don't want to spoil it. So.
I mean, when I first read it, I was, in some ways I was confused, but also I was, when I read it I think maybe 4 times before we started the rehearsal, and I was like, And the first time I was like, okay, I see where this is going. And then when I started reading between the lines, and I was like, okay, this makes sense. And then finally when we started actually putting things into it, I was like, wow, this is really good. This is all really makes sense, and it's really clever. So yeah.
The thing with plays, they're not meant to be read, they're meant to be staged. And so I think for a lot of people, that they read this and there are so many characters that come in to the first few scenes. I think people can get a little bit lost, and there's lots of different stories happening. And on a first read, it can be quite confusing, but eventually it all starts to fit into place. But you have to listen very carefully to some of the dialogue to really understand where those journeys fit in and what those subplots, how the subplots fit into the main story as well. And it all comes together by the end. The end of yesterday's rehearsal, I turned around to the stage manager, Stella, and I said, does that make sense to you? Did any of that make sense? And she said, yes, it does, which was actually quite pleasing for me, because that is one of the things as a writer, is what I'm writing making sense to anybody?
So for Ugly Youth, I was basically given a script to work with initially, so that's how I started to create the music, was purely through reading the script and trying to sense through that kind of what atmosphere needs to be evoked on stage with the music. Working on this project has been it's been great fun actually, and it's been quite challenging for me because I had 2 student musicians to work with, so Tom and Ayala. I had to write music that challenged them in a way, but at the same time wasn't so complicated and so difficult that it detracted from what the actors are doing on stage, so that it kind of like underscores the whole time. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, but it was difficult at the same time, so it kept me busy.
Rehearsals have been going brilliantly. I am so pleased with everything that the cast are bringing to it. It's really difficult as director to direct your own material, because it's quite a personal thing. So what I asked the cast to do was come up with their own interpretation, their own backstories of characters. Really come with ideas, creative ideas, and bring that to the table, bring that to the rehearsal room, and they have.
In my audition, when I at the end when I read for Ash, I actually felt I fitted into that character way more than what I'd originally auditioned for. And I instantly, I was like, this is actually the person I want to play. I really enjoyed the character, and I was like, yeah. So I feel like it's definitely been a challenge trying to get things such as backstories through, because there's so many, and for each individual character throughout the play, there's always got to be a backstory in your head that you know. And I feel like Ash's backstory can be quite hard to portray because it's never really mentioned throughout the story. So, yeah, but I feel like I've done all right training him. I mean, it has been a challenge, but I've enjoyed doing it. Really enjoyed it.
They've been absolutely amazing. So actually quite a lot of what goes on in this play has been directed by the pupils themselves. They're saying, well, can I do this? How about this? And I really, really appreciate that. So rehearsals have gone very smoothly because of that, because they're so well prepared. And they learnt their lines way before rehearsal started, so that, there have been no books in rehearsal. So we can just get on with, the detail of the acting and the movement. Movement rehearsals have been absolutely fantastic. We're very lucky to have Ben O'Mahony, who's an actor and a coach, and has done a lot of physical theatre himself. He has been instrumental in a lot of those really complicated movement sequences and a lot of the fights. There are so many fights in this play, and it's really tricky to try and create an entire scene, not just of the fighting in the foreground, but you've got a whole battle going on in the background as well. Everybody has their own fight, everybody has their own objective, and he's been a master at really trying to get everybody involved in those sequences so they look really action-packed in a very tight space, on a very small stage.
My name is Natasha Hobbs. I am the choreographer. My first step is listen to the music all the time. I research quite a lot of moves, obviously what Miss Hunter wants with his storyline. I then come into rehearsals and I teach the students basic steps. And then once I've got the basic steps, basic movement of what I want, I then add and I build on from there. I've kind of based it on physical theatre movement. It's very military, structure movement, where they all need to look exactly the same.
The challenge of the rehearsal process has been, up until now, the technical side. It is very meticulous what we're doing here. Every single moment has to be very well choreographed. Not only do we have self-illuminating LED boxes, but we've also got video wall pillars that are kind of projecting different things to enhance the location or the mood. We've got a live band on stage as well. There are cables everywhere, so it's making what is a very small space into something that's also very safe for the actors to play on. That's the trickiest thing to sort out, is choreographing all the transitions, the music, the technical side, and somewhere in there there's some acting as well.